Cool. There, we're recording now. Yeah, now I've got to be on my best behavior. All right. So thank you, Sam. So willpower versus habits. Can I share my presentation now, Sam? Yeah. Okay. All right.
While Chris is pulling up his presentation, just to let everyone know that I have started recording. If you don't wish for your face to be recorded, just camera off and avoid using the mic if you don't want your voice captured.
All right, there we go. Now I hope everybody can see that. And okay, so willpower versus habits, right? So this talk is sort of for you as educators, teachers, ESL professionals to help your students, but it is also for you as well, right? So it's kind of for everybody, right? It's a topic that I think everybody needs reminders about now and again. Now, it might not be all new, 100% new, what I'm going to talk about today. You might have heard some of these ideas before. In fact, I'm pretty sure you have, but like I said, I think we need these constant reminders, especially now, this time of year. I know I do. So let me tell you about me. The most important thing, obviously, is I'm originally from Leeds in the UK, but I've spent the last 21 years, or a little bit over 21 years now, living in Mallorca in Spain, which is, for those of you who don't know, Mallorca is a little island in the Mediterranean, very beautiful place. It's a paradise, really. We have a great climate, beautiful beaches, and I'm very lucky to live here. I've got a Mallorcan wife and 2 young daughters. Pretty much all that time I've been working in ESL, so around 21 years. Started as a freelance teacher, later opened my own little academy here in Palma, where we were running after-school courses for adults, for teens, for kids, also working with local businesses. And then a few years ago, when the pandemic hit, things got a little bit tricky. I decided to close the academy, go online, and became an online teacher and coach for Spanish-speaking professionals, focusing on business English and communication skills. And of course, not forgetting that I joined the Twinkl team in April of this year as a content writer and editor, and that has been a wonderful experience. And I know we got a lot of the team here today, so very proud to be in the team. I think we've had a great year, very happy with what we've achieved, and looking forward to 2025 very much. Yeah. So back to the topic, motivation. Now, it's a great picture. I think this is sort of the traditional view, or one view, of what sort of motivation feels like or is about, right? It's all about pushing yourself beyond limits. It's about perhaps being strong, being disciplined. You need a lot of willpower, of course, to do that. So it's about pushing through, breaking through, being strong, being disciplined, using your willpower. And of course, this is great. And of course, all necessary, all good, better for a short-term goal, a long-term goal, like learning and becoming, not only learning English, but becoming confident and fluent using English. Perhaps you're going to need some maybe longer-term strategies as well. So I just want to make a quick comparison. A lot of people make analogies with learning English and doing some kind of extreme physical challenges, like they compare with climbing a mountain or perhaps running a marathon or some long distance race, right? And I just want to make a quick comparison between these 2 types of challenges. Firstly, let's look at the physical challenges, the extreme physical challenges. These kind of challenges, obviously, apart from actually achieving the thing itself, give you huge benefits for your physical self, for your mental self. You get a whole bunch of chemical releases in your brain, your body's in shape. So they have a lot more benefits there, which perhaps learning English doesn't necessarily have. They are relatively short-term challenges. Okay, so even running a marathon, preparing for a marathon could take a few months, a year, perhaps even a couple of years, but still relatively short-term compared to the challenge of becoming fluent in English. This one, really important. The top is really clear. The end is really clear, right? So when you're doing these kind of other types of physical challenges, it's really clear when you've reached the top. You get to the top of the mountain, you've got a wonderful view, huge rush of endorphins, fun fantastic feeling. The same at the end of a race or a marathon, right? You have this huge benefit. It's really clear that you're there at the top or the end of that activity. And of course, you can celebrate that victory, right? You can feel really, really good about doing that, and you can celebrate that victory, which is incredibly rewarding. Okay, that's the extreme physical challenges, which people often compare with learning English. Now, let's have a little look at learning English. The benefits, not a huge quantity of benefits in terms of physical and mental benefits, right? I mean, obviously, people do say that it's good for your brain. You don't necessarily feel those benefits very much as you're learning it, though. Now, you might get the odd sort of feel-good feeling, but not too much. It's a very long-term challenge, as I'm sure most of you know, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, where is the top? Yeah, this is a really important question, right? Like when you're learning a language, where is the end? How do you know when you're at the top, right? There is no top. There is no end. Perfection is definitely not the end, because that obviously is never going to happen. So it's quite difficult when you're learning a language to know when when you've achieved something, right? And of course, the rewards are quite small. The victories are small. You don't often feel like celebrating them that much, because perhaps you still feel, oh, I still need to get better. I'm still not feeling quite good enough. So we do get these little rewards, but they are small and often come together with feelings of not feeling good enough, which don't really allow us to celebrate those victories and get any reward out of doing it. So there is quite a big difference there, I think, in those kind of comparing those two types of activities. Let's just talk a little bit about English and the long road of learning English. So yeah, I think as I'm sure you're all aware, learning a language, or English in this case, but any language really, is a sort of long journey, and there are many potential obstacles along the way. Studies show that approximately like 4 to 10% of learners reach an advanced level, which we C1 or C2. So, okay, I'd like to ask your opinion on this. Obviously, it's a very open question, a very general question, but as educators, as ESL professionals, how long do you think it takes for someone to sort of become confident and fluent in English? So please just drop your answers in the chat, please. Two years, Raquel. Wow. Did you manage it in 2 years? That's incredible if you did. 5 years. How long is a piece of string? Yeah, I like that answer. That's not me. Okay, Janet Cliff, 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. Maybe. You can definitely get some level of proficiency in a couple of years, 3 years, if you're 100% focused, right? If you're studying, pretty focused on that. Yeah, okay. It obviously depends on your language, where you are. There's all sorts of factors. Obviously, there's no real good answer for this question, right? It can take very long. I'm not only talking necessarily about an academic level here. I'm talking about really feeling able to deal with situations confidently in English. So according to Cambridge English, it takes about 800 hours of study to go from a complete beginner level to an advanced level, to C1 level, okay? So that probably doing about 2 to 3 hours per week, that's probably going to take you like about 5 or 6 years to complete that. And of course, that's assuming a lot of things which really very rarely come together at the same time. That's assuming that you have, all the necessary resources available and at hand. It's also assuming that you have a good learning environment with supportive teachers and good content and a good program of studies, that you're using the right effective learning methods that are actually going to help you move forward, that you don't take breaks. Everybody takes breaks. Of course they do. Now people are going to take breaks for Christmas, there's summer, there's weekends, there's all sorts of reasons for taking breaks. Every break you take sort of sets you back a little bit, right? So taking breaks, but you're consistent. You don't experience significant life changes. Who doesn't experience some significant life changes at some point, right? You've got new partners, you've got babies, you've got new job, deaths in the family, illnesses, all sorts of stuff can get in the way, right? That can interrupt your learning, making the sort of 800 hours not really that realistic in real terms. And of course, that's not to mention sort of speaking real English in real situations, right? That's a whole new level of challenge, moving from the academic sphere into the real life, whether that's going to live in a foreign country, maybe work in an international setting in a business or company or something like that. So how can students stay motivated over such a prolonged period of time? Well, it's not really a question for you guys, okay? The answer is quite simple, actually. The answer is they can't. It's just impossible. Literally nobody, I think. Well, okay, hold on, maybe Rafa Nadal or a few really extreme sort of people with incredible willpower can maintain that level of motivation over the prolonged period of time. But most people, most normal humans can't, and definitely not based on willpower alone, okay? So, of course, there are some things you can do to stay motivated or to help your students stay motivated. So I'll run through a few of those now. The first one, of course, is having the clear goals. Of course, this long-term goal, having your long-term vision of what you want to achieve, keep going back to that again and again to remind yourself exactly why it is you're doing that thing. And then you've got your short-term goals, which are really those kind of peaks and end of the race that you create for yourself, where you give yourself clear goals and sort of for your students, so they know when they've achieved something. So those are your long and short-term goals. Obviously, you can keep your students accountable, make sure they do what they say they're going to do, monitor their progress, keep a track on them, have a good plan of action with the right content, the right, a good timetable, know exactly what the steps are that you need to take, keeping it relevant and useful for your students. Of course, they want to see that this is going to actually help and, be useful in their lives. Fun and engaging. Well, absolutely. If students are not engaged, the students are not having fun, then probably they're not learning. So that's a really important one, and part of a responsibility of a teacher as well, partly. Create a good learning environment. Probably that's covering most of the other ones that we've already mentioned as well. Being supportive, being consistent, clearly demonstrating the progress to your students as they go through by doing, that could be through tests or exams, but also just by a general monitoring and feedback, sort of creating a feedback loop with them. Celebrating wins. Yeah, I think as a teacher, as a trainer and educator, important to celebrate wins, because generally people don't do it themselves. So you've got to sort of help them by doing that with them. And then lastly, very important, empowering your students, making sure that they feel like they're in the driving seat, they are making the decisions, they are driving their learning forward. All of these great techniques, obviously we could go a lot more into depth into those right now, but I just wanted to go over those quickly. Some of those ideas, all of these are great techniques for staying motivated, but for keeping your students motivated. But like I said at the beginning, even if you do pretty much all of those, right, you're going to find that it's absolutely inevitable that some days, weeks, months, or even years, your students just won't feel like learning, right? This is going to happen. They'll get bored, they're frustrated, they'll get distracted, they'll be tired, they'll be ill, they'll have other priorities, they'll take breaks. Everybody takes breaks, like I said before. They'll lose interest at some point, they'll want to do other things. They'll experience life changes, of course. They'll have babies, they'll get married, they'll change jobs, they'll change city. Okay, so we have these sort of two contradictory truths that we mentioned before. It takes a long time to become fluent and confident in English. And at the same time, motivation is not going to sustain all the way through. Now, it's virtually impossible to stay motivated for that period of time, especially if you're only doing it on willpower alone. So what can we do? Pretty tricky. Well, one sort of solution for this is by creating good learning habits. Okay, creating good learning habits. Now, what are learning habits? What is a habit in general? Well, a habit is something that you do regularly without thinking much about it, right? It's something that you just do a lot as part of your routine, and after you've done it enough times, sort of becomes something that you don't really need to think too much about. It's sort of automizing the way your life. And the good news is that once you've formed a habit, it then takes very little effort to then continue doing it. So that sounds like something that would be a good idea, right? Something that, okay, it takes a little time to set up and to do it, but once you've got it going, the idea is that it doesn't take too much effort, too much thought for then you to continue doing that. So I'll give you a few examples. So basically, a habit doesn't normally require much planning or much forethought. So, for example, a question for you: how much effort does it really take for you to brush your teeth, or for you to make the bed, perhaps have a coffee or tea in the morning, read a book before bed? Maybe some people eat meals at regular times each day. All of those, let's just go back. All of those are regular habits that you weren't born with. Those habits, you develop those habits over time. You don't really think about those. You don't really need to feel too pumped up to brush your teeth, right? You don't need to feel all sort of ready to go in order to brush your teeth. You've developed those as habits. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about developing good learning habits. Habits, the idea would be to turn your learning into habits so that you don't really need to plan too much or think about it. You can do it almost automatically. And most importantly, probably it kind of deconnects it from how motivated you feel at that moment, right? You don't need, like I said before, you don't need to feel motivated to brush your teeth. So that's the idea with creating good learning habits. So by developing good learning habits, you can sort of break that dependence on what is really something that is very finite, and that is your willpower, right? Your willpower. So breaking away from your dependence on the willpower. So how are you going to set about creating good habits? Well, I think you need to be really intentional about the habits that you want to build and be very deliberate in how you plan to develop those habits, right? So generally speaking, we just sort of let habits develop, right? We don't think about it. We're not intentional about how we do it. But the idea here, or for your students or for you, if you have a long-term objective, then think about the kind of habits that you're going to need in order to get to that long-term objective, okay? So the first thought would be sort of having a vision about what you really want to achieve, where you want to go in the future, right? And then deliberately developing the habits that you need to reach that goal. And I think we can do that with our students as well, with our clients. We can help them in this respect. So in order to develop new habits, here are a few tips and ideas that might help you in order to sort of fix those habits and make them become actually real habits in your life. So the first one is to create a good environment where you make it easy for yourself, right? So this sounds complicated, but it's really just about basically having things at hand and accessible for you. So you don't need to think about it too much. You make it as easy as possible for yourself. You remove friction. Friction is basically, in this case, something that might stop you doing it, right? If you have to go and look and find a page in a book which you have hidden away in a cupboard somewhere to find what it is that you need to do, it might just stop you. So make things as easy as you can for yourself. So that could include things like, if you want to practice on an app, you could have that app sort of saved on your homepage, on your mobile. If you're going to be reading a book, you have that book close to hand and you know exactly where you're going to go to. Just things that make it really easy. Make it enjoyable. All right, of course. I mean, the game app designers, they know this, right? They're using that gamification to get you in there, making it fun. A lot of people from experience don't necessarily like learning English that much. They know they need to do it, but they don't necessarily want, or they don't necessarily enjoy doing it. So in that case, perhaps one way to make it more enjoyable would be to actually reward yourself, right? So link this new habit with a reward that you give yourself, right? Something, okay, I've done my thing and now I get this, right? So that would be to reward yourself. Linking to existing habits, right? So like I said before, we have habits. We all have habits that we do regularly, that we don't think about too much. So if we have these habits really fixed, then introducing a new habit it would be a good idea to link it to that existing habit. That way it's more likely to stick. So that could include things like, if you're going to go, so in terms of your students, I'm thinking if they're perhaps going to go for a walk every day, if they do go for a walk every day, then they could combine that walk with listening to some English. Perhaps you have your shower in the morning, you do a little bit of speaking practice, vocalizing practice. Perhaps if you have to prepare dinner every day, then it could be your moment to listen to a podcast. It could be your moment to watch a short video. So if you link those new habits that you want to create, that you want to develop to something existing, I think they're much more likely to stick. Also, there's this, this will start small. Before that, there's this term that has been created called habit stacking, which is basically, putting one habit at the same time as you're doing another one. So it could be at the same time, or it could be that existing habit creates a trigger for you to then do your new habit, right? Okay, so let me give you an example about this. A couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to play the piano, right? Never played it before. We have this piano at home, this beautiful keyboard in our living room that my daughters play with, but I hadn't touched it. And I thought, well, I'd really love to be able to play something, even if it's something just simple. Don't worry, I'm not going to do a show today, okay? So I thought, I know myself, there's going to be so many interruptions. I'm not going to prioritize this. I'm always going to put it low priority. How am I going to get started on this piano? So I thought, well, 10 minutes a day, okay. Not only is it 10 minutes a day, but I thought, okay, I'm going to have to fix a time and a trigger for this 10 minutes a day that really gets me, I know when I'm doing it. So I thought, well, I have my lunch more or less at the same time every day, about 1 o'clock. And I thought, well, after lunch, right, I'll do 5 to 10 minutes after lunch. So I did this for a bit, I had to get it first. I had to really kind of focus on this like for a month or so. And eventually I put it in my routine and it became a habit. So now I finish my lunch and a little voice goes in my head, hey, it's piano time. And I go, oh yeah, right, yeah. I better do that. And I play the piano. Honestly, I don't always do it every day. The voice still goes off every day. That's the important thing. The voice goes off every day. So that means I think I've kind of managed to get it there as a habit. Sometimes I postpone it. Sometimes I reschedule it. But I still have that time, and I try to do it as often as I can. So that's what I mean by linking it to existing habits. Track your progress. Start small. Obviously, yeah, I think don't be too ambitious. Start with something small. You can always grow and build that later. Track progress if you can. Apps again are fantastic at this. They do it for you very often. If you're doing something else, perhaps keeping a journal, keeping some kind of record of what you're doing can really help you to see, oh, look how much I've actually done. It's actually a lot. Be consistent, clearly. Okay. Right, here's a question. How long does it take to form a new habit? I don't think there's any fixed period. I know a lot of, like, if you read a lot of books, if you listen to various experts, they have sort of various periods of time that they give. It does require a little work at the beginning, right? You've got to fix that up. You've got to set that up. You've got to put the work in. You've got to decide what you're doing. You've got to actually use your willpower. But only for a short period. That's the whole idea, right? You're going to use that willpower initially to set something up that is then going to require less effort. So there's no fixed period. You can it sort of fluctuates. Some people saying like 21 days. I think I've heard various people, 30 days I've heard from various experts. Another source I found recently said 200 days, which is quite a long time. But still, fixing it at the beginning will require time, with the idea that then later it's going to actually save you time and effort. And once it's established, it's going to save you time and effort. Yeah. Right. I'm going to just quote from this book. This is probably for me and for many people who here is like the Bible of habits, creating habits. It's quite well known. I think most people know it. If you haven't read it, if you don't know the book, I do really honestly suggest that you read it. It is very good. It's very easy to read. It's very clear. And it's very actionable in terms of you can really take action straight away and improve. And I would say that it has changed my life, this book. So it's one of those books that has changed my life. So I'm going to give you a few quotes from this book. So, oops, just that. We'll stick with that first one. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Basically saying that, yeah, having these grand, ambitious goals is great, but it's not necessarily what is going to get you there at the end. What is going to get you there and what's going to make changes in your life and is going to help you achieve things is by having a system in place to do it. Let me have let's go. Another one. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. Yes. So these grand transformations that people promise don't often happen as like that, right? They happen with consistent actions that you take on a daily basis. And I think with learning languages, that's very, very clear. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. Basically saying that, yes, you're not necessarily going to get results in the short term, but as long as you're on the right track, as long as you're keeping, you know what you're doing, you're developing the right habits, then that is what you should be thinking about. That's what you should be focused on. And the last one, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Now here we're entering into more of an aspirational idea, this idea of the person that you want to become in the future, and then creating the habits in order to do that. So this is actually towards the end of my presentation for today. So you would define the person you aspire to be and cultivate the habits that will transform you into that version of yourself. By taking the right steps, you can achieve incredible things. And okay, let's end the presentation with a question for everybody. 2025, right? A moment, an inflection point right now. It's New Year, it's Christmas, it's New Year. We're beginning a new year. I'm very excited about 2025. I always get excited at this time of year. So I'm interested to know from you guys, what habits are you going to start in the new year? So please share any new habits you've already thought about or you think about right now in the chat. That would be great. I know mine. I'll share mine first while you guys are writing. Okay, I missed those. Sorry. Yoga. Yes, I like it. Daily sea swims. Callie, where are you living, Callie? Because that could be cold.
Cornwall, very cold.
Cornwall, yeah. I'm in Mallorca, and it's still pretty cold, but I do like that one. I do. I'm in for that one, definitely. Yeah. Less screen time, yeah. I think that could be just global, right? Less screen time. Everybody wants to do that. It's just so addictive. It's impossible to resist. Yoga time. What's that, Janet? I didn't see that. Does that count as building a habit? Gym. Yeah, the gym. The gym's a good one, yeah. Short daily walks. I think that's a very modest habit, but a nice one, I think, to have short daily walks. Mine this year is actually about finding some time for training and educating myself a little bit, something that I tend to maybe not find the time for, not prioritize. So I'm going to try to find more time. No, I'm going to try now. I'm going to incorporate this a new habit into doing a little bit of training each week. Caesar photography. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Right. That's all really from me on this presentation. So I think I'll open the floor for any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions, anyone?
You can either put it in the chat or we can talk about it.
I think most people are going to walk away a bit more empowered, or a bit more, not realistic, I don't want to say realistic, but thinking a bit more strategically about how they're going to cross off all those New Year's resolutions, rather than, I don't know if we get that many questions. I think everyone feels...
Janet's got one here. Would you say breaking a habit and building habit uses the same? I would actually, Janet. I would absolutely say that it uses the same psychology. I think, yeah, identifying the habits that you don't want to do and breaking those, definitely.
Yeah.
Good question, Janet. Okay. Yeah, I think Sam, I think we form habits, right? And we develop habits all the time. Without realizing sometimes, or just not intentionally. So I think trying to be a little bit intentional and sort of guiding that process is probably a good idea. Yeah,
I didn't think until Janet mentioned it about negative habits, right? Habits that we get in that actually aren't so positive, and the obvious ones would be smoking or drinking, but they could be something as simple as biting your nails, or forgetting things, or I don't know.
Or in the case of students, learn some bad learning habits, perhaps, that they've picked up along the way, right? Yeah.
And that's quite interesting how to approach those. I think you're right. I think the same things do apply, right? I think in some cases it's often just replacing. A lot of those things come down to replacing negative habits with more positive or constructive ones, right? The time that you might go out for a cigarette, you need to replace that with something a bit more.
Yeah. I couldn't give you advice on that one, but I mean, I think awareness, isn't it? The first step is always, for me, is just being aware that you want to change, and then awareness of the habit that keeps coming up, and then go, oh, cool, I did it again, and that takes time to break. It did for me when I stopped smoking, and did for me with various other things.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to wrap us up there and move on to the next section. Thank you, Chris.
I'll just say last Merry Christmas to everyone. Have a great Christmas, Happy New Year, and see you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, next on our agenda is breakout rooms. I'm going to break us up into some smaller rooms for some networking. I think talk about what you want. Everyone is from different places around the world, so I think it's really interesting just to hear about where is everyone teaching, what kind of teaching we're doing. We know ESL is such a broad spectrum. You could be teaching kindergarten, you could be teaching adults, you could be teaching in a big corporation, so who knows. But I guess if I give you one question to go away with, it will be, what is something new you learned this year? So give me a second to split up the rooms. Set up breakout rooms. I'm going to just set 4 rooms, shall we say? Yeah, let's do it. 4 rooms. Oh no, it's put us all. Okay, bear with me, someone. I have to physically drag and drop you all into different rooms. You're not your physical bodies, but your names, which is, thought it would be easier than this, but here we go. Someone keep the chat going while I break everyone out.
Okay, I'll try. What is everyone doing for Christmas? Or if you don't celebrate Christmas, what are you doing?
spending spending a week on the sofa. I think it's been a busy year, and and I'm off for the 2 weeks. So yeah, chilling out, I think. What about you?
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'm not going to chill. I'm visiting my very, very large family.
That's nice. Where in the world are you?
I'm in Spain.
Oh, lovely.
I'm going to the north of Spain, and there's going to be a lot of cousins, a lot of little children, a lot of noise. I'm looking forward to it, but also not, if that makes any sense.
It'll be lovely.
Yeah.
Where is everybody else in the world? I'm really interested to know where everybody is based.
I'm based in South Africa, so my Christmas is very warm and sunny. We are actually going to have our Christmas lunch on a little boat cruise to enjoy the weather. So that's something that's a bit different.
Beautiful. What do you eat for Christmas dinner?
We actually do more like Christmas lunch, but it's like a lot of cold meats and like pasta salad, regular salad. Obviously, because it's quite warm, so it's not like very warm, like maybe a roast or something. But yeah, not soupy, not comforting food, just refreshing.
That, yeah, I guess when it's hot, it makes sense. You don't cover everything with gravy like we do in the UK for Christmas.
Right. We do have some on the side. I'm just checking the chat and seeing where everyone's from. We've got Spain, Russia, Portugal, Vietnam. It's quite a wide spread of time zones as well.
Yeah.
Janet, do you have the same like imagery that we use in the UK with like the snow and the snowman and Santa Claus and stuff like that?
A little bit, like there are some
Yeah.
Christmas ornaments that have snowy, like little snow globes and that sort of thing.
I remember I spent one Christmas in Australia, and it was 40 degrees, I remember. And yeah, they still have the same imagery, right? So they still have snow and snowman and Santa Claus and reindeer and stuff all around.
Yeah.
But it's like 40 degrees. Just looking at the pictures of Santa Claus in the coat just makes you feel like, oh,
It's
no.
yeah, it's odd. I think when I was very young, and once I kind of hit that age, like maybe 5, 6, when I was old enough to realize that it was Christmas, I was so confused because I'd been watching so many movies with snow and it was hot. Couldn't understand it. All right, I see I've been invited to a breakout room. So
Okay, yeah, let's go.
You should have all now been invited. Hello, everyone. I hope you had fun in your breakout room. In ours, just to follow the British stereotype, we talk about the weather quite a bit. We did compare temperatures for a while, but I think that's to be expected. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to move us on because we're a little bit behind schedule. Our next speaker is the fantastic Callie. You may have seen her. She's worked with Twinkl plenty. She's worked closely with us, and she's worked with our tutors team in England. She's also going to be a featured case study in our upcoming Marketing Essentials for ESL Teachers course. She can tell you a bit more about herself and her background, but she is someone who's taken her teaching experiences and her knowledge and built her own tutoring business from the ground up, and now employs, is it something like 18 teachers?
That's it, yeah.
I'm glad I remembered that number. 18 teachers. So I'm not going to tell you anymore. She's the expert in herself and her business and growing your teaching business. So I'm going to hand over to her to talk more about reflecting on your business strategy.
Thanks so much, Sam. And yeah, happy Christmas, everybody. And yeah, thank you, Sam, for putting this together today. I understand that there's a lot of Twinklers in the room and some independent teachers and people who are doing twinkling alongside teaching as well. So it would be great to hear a little bit more about what everybody does in just a moment. But for now, I'm going to try and do the tech and figure out how to share my screen. Here we go. I think everyone could see it. Could everybody say yes if you can? Because I can't see the chat anymore.
We can see, definitely we can see.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, yeah, and I can't see the chat anymore. So if you do send me a message, I might have to like close this screen and come back into it in a sec. Or Sam, maybe you can let me know if there's any questions. So yeah, thank you so much for coming today, and thank you, Sam, for letting me speak to everybody. So you'll see that just before I started, I sent a link in the chat. That's to a workbook that I've made for today's session. So if this is something that you're interested in, then please feel free to download and work through it either now during the session or in your own time. So as Sam said, I run a tuition business, and I know that there are perhaps a few people in here who work as independent tutors, so are running their own businesses too, advertising themselves as a tutor. So this talk today is kind of for you, but also for anybody who might have their own business idea, whether it be like a side hustle that they've always thought about, or even just sort of thinking about how you're going to develop your career in 2025. So I'm going to kind of do this as a bit more of a workshop and an opportunity for actually you just to spend some time reflecting on 2024 and thinking forward to 2025. So I'm going to try and not speak the whole time, but we'll see how that goes. So basically in today's session, we're going to have a go at working through a reflective strategy to be able to either refine a new business idea that you might have, that you might be toying with, or think about your existing business or your existing sort of role as an independent educator maybe, and how you can grow that in 2025. And growth can mean many different things for many people, and we'll touch on that in a little while. So I'll just tell you a little bit more about me first. So my journey in international education, ESL teaching, began in Colombia, where I taught English in a state school back when I was 21, 22. It was a lot of fun. And then I returned to the UK to get my PGCE and spent a few years working in a London primary school teacher, where again, I worked with many students who had English as an additional language. But I felt like many teachers in the UK felt a bit burnt out, and therefore moved to Japan, where I taught in like a ESL in an English centre with kindergarten age students. And that was all so much fun. And then the pandemic hit and I was forced to return back to the UK, where I ended up tutoring online, and like many people, sort of rode on the wave of the pandemic and online tuition at the time. And it went from me sort of doing it as a stopgap activity, thinking that I'll just keep doing that until I can travel abroad again, into a full-fledged business. I guess the pandemic went on for quite some time, so it had the time for that to happen and establish. So this sort of, I realized that this allowed me to combine my passion and love for teaching, but also at the same time be able to travel. And I know I've spoken in the breakout room to a few people who are from the UK but live in Spain. And yeah, when you can bring your laptop to a new country, it's quite liberating. So that's what I did with my business. And over the last few years, as Sam touched on, it's grown into an agency. So I work with other teachers under my business Primary Tutor Project, and we work with children all around the world, UK and international, mainly in Asia. And this year has been a real big success for Primary Tutor Project. We were shortlisted for a national award here in the UK. And I recently returned from a big tuition trade mission in China, where we were exploring new sort of business opportunities there for ESL businesses from the UK. And yeah, now I also get to help other tutors and teachers who are looking to grow their tuition businesses as well. So it's really developed over the last few years. And I think a big factor for sort of the journey that I've had has been taking opportunities every few months to sit back and reflect on what I'm doing with my life, what I'm doing with the business, and, you know, what else is going on around me and around the business that I can take advantage of, what opportunities are there for me. And that's what I want to talk a bit more about today. So I'll be talking about reflection as a business tool, but you can also apply this to anything in your career. If you're employed, you can think about this in the context of where you want your career to go in the future. So I hope that everybody here will get something useful out of this. So reflection, I think, is more than just about looking back. It's about planning for the future. And it's an incredibly important tool in whatever you do in your career, but particularly if you're running your own small business. So I'm just going to quickly touch on a few points about what it means to reflect effectively in business, and things that I've learned over the last few years. So first of all, reflection, of course, starts with really examining what's gone well for you, what's been successful, and what's been a challenge, what's perhaps been a failure. And by identifying the patterns that have led to either that success or failure, and I guess Chris's ideas of habits come into this as well, you can really double down on what to avoid and think about avoiding repeating those mistakes, but also about what you want to focus on in your future. And next, think about really focusing on why those successes happened and why those failures happened. So, for example, if a lesson or like a social media post didn't resonate with people, thinking about why it didn't. Was it just the timing? Was it that your audience was misaligned with what you do? Or was there something else? And that can bring a bit of clarity going forward. Next, thinking about aligning your actions with a goal. So thinking for the future. So again, this is where Chris's ideas of habit forming kind of tie in nicely to this, because it's all about, are your daily actions, the things that you're doing every day, aligned with your long-term goals? So of course, identifying your long-term goals are really important as a first step, but then looking backwards, reflecting on what have you been doing on a day-to-day basis, and does that tie in? And I think if you do run a small business, you can get really caught up in like all the busy work and the kind of things that might take your eye off your goal, and you only have so much time in your day to be able to run a small business. But reflection helps you pull it back and tie it into your long-term goals. The next point, I guess, is relevant to any ESL teacher, and it's a good thing to do as a teacher at the end of the year or whenever, but taking time to really reflect on the feedback and getting feedback from people that you work with. So that might be getting feedback from your students or from the parents, or perhaps from other people that you collaborate with. And that's really important because often we have blind spots. We can't often see our own successes. So for example, recently I've sent out like a parent survey at the end of the year just to see how it's going for everybody. And then I'm going to be able to use like what people have enjoyed and liked about working with us at Primary Tutor Project, and put that into my marketing focus for next year. Like, what's making us special for those parents and families, and how can I then use that next year to make more growth in my business? And then finally, of course, effective reflection always includes like some sort of forward-looking element. Using what you've learned from this sort of cycle process to be able to adapt your strategies and perhaps set goals for the months ahead.
1 second, Callie.
Yeah.
I don't think your slides are switching through your slides. I don't think
Okay.
they're moving through.
Hang on.
It's okay. Happens to me all the time. Everyone here who works at Twinkl will know I always share the wrong window, the wrong slides, wrong something.
Should I just share my entire screen?
Yeah, as
Is
long
that
as you
better?
don't. Yeah, don't put your bank details. Don't open your private banking on the window. As long as you're all safe and secure, you should be good.
Okay, yeah. Look, I think that'll do the job. Hopefully, let me know if it does switch. Can you see it again?
Not yet. Hold on. Yeah, it's coming.
And is that clicking through now?
Yeah, it's going perfectly.
Thank you. Okay, so if you did get the workbook open earlier, you'll find on the first page there's just a little bit of a first activity, and if you would like to make some notes about this, you can, or I'm going to try and get back to the chat so that I can see anybody's answers from this. But just take a couple of minutes now to have a go at thinking back to 2024 and really try and think might just be the first thing that comes to your mind. What was one success for you from this year, and what was one challenge for you, or it's not a nice way to say it, put it, but a failure perhaps for you this year? And what could you take away from that into 2025? How can you turn those into a positive things for your failures? Or if it was a success, what's something that you can take away to make sure that that success is repeated next year? So either write it down on a bit of paper if you've got some, or if you would like to share your ideas in the chat, that would also be really cool. Because it might give other people ideas about their own successes and failures, because this can sometimes be a bit tricky. I'll leave them on the board and I'll try and see that at the same time. Thanks, Chris and Sam, for sharing. Hiring the right people is a hard thing to get right, but when you do, it definitely makes your job easier. And it's also just really nice working with other nice people.
100%.
Oh my goodness, Janet, yes. I feel like this is something a lot of people could resonate with in this meeting time right now. Working remotely, how you structure your time effectively, how to avoid not working all the time. When you don't
knowing when to log off, or like start your day at the same time each day, even if you can push it by half an hour, just so that your structures stay the same.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'll move on. But yeah, so these ideas might not come to you straight away. Like when I've sat down to do this myself, it takes me a lot longer than 3 minutes to think about my successes and failures, because there's a lot to think back on. But doing so can help you with your plan moving forward. So next, I'm going to go through like a 4-step reflection strategy that I use in my business to help you perhaps evaluate your journey as an ESL educator and consider maybe either a new business idea or the next steps for growing your existing business, or thinking about perhaps just something different that you could be doing in your career to push things forward in 2025. So we're going to talk about reflecting on your passions, identifying what's going on around you, and planning and committing to some actions so that we've all got something to take away for January. So, reflecting. So I'm going to focus on what I think is one of the most crucial parts of refining a business idea or being able to scale a business idea. And that's about thinking about your niche and identifying what your goals are for yourself or your business. And finding a niche is kind of all about carving out a unique space in the market. So it's useful whether you're just starting with an idea or scaling your existing business, or thinking about in your career what makes you special. So this is quite important when it comes to thinking about business. So I'll just give you a little story about when I first started Primary Tutor Project. So I came from being an ESL teacher, an English teacher, primary school teacher. I didn't have the business acumen and had to learn a lot on the job. And that meant making a lot of mistakes early on, and still making mistakes now. And one of those early on was that I tried to be a generalist. I tried to say yes to every ESL tutoring opportunity that came my way, and quite quickly realized that that was a huge mistake, because number one, as you can imagine, I was spending time planning resources for such a wide range of ESL needs, from kindergarten to adults and all of the different levels, which took far too much time. And meant that my lessons weren't as good quality because I wasn't honing in on something that I was really good at teaching. But in the business context, it also made marketing Primary Tutor Project impossible, because I didn't have like a clear message that I was leading with in my marketing, and that meant that I couldn't stand out. So when you're reflecting back on your year, think about like what excites you the most about your job, whether it's teaching ESL or resource creating or whatever it might be. What excites you most about it? What's the one thing that you absolutely adore about what you do? So if you're an ESL teacher, perhaps you love helping students pass exams. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe it's supporting children with learning differences and you get a lot of joy from that. Or perhaps it's simply being able to have conversations with adults all around the world and you love teaching conversational adult English. Whatever it is, your passion can really guide you to a niche for your business idea, because if it's something that you're going to be doing all day, every day, perhaps one day or already are, then you want to make sure that it's something that you really enjoy doing. And that's the same in any career, like deciding where your career is going. We often think about what the opportunities are out there and just basing it strictly off that. But if you really focus on your passions and what you enjoy first, then it will be much easier for you to find those opportunities later on. So what I would like everybody to have a go at now is just thinking about your own sort of strengths as an ESL teacher or whatever it is that you do, and what aspects of teaching or what aspects of working in your business excite you the most. So write down like 1 or 2 areas that you truly enjoy. Again, I'm going to try and get back to the chat to see any ideas that people would like to share with others, and think about how these could guide you to a niche for a business idea or for developing your next steps for 2025. So I'll just give you a few minutes now to have a think about this. And just on this as well, you can think a bit outside the box of what it is that you do all the time. For example, when I was initially thinking about this, I think first and foremost about the teaching side of things. But then as my business has developed this year, I am spending a lot more time working with other adults, managing other teachers or dealing with parents. And I've realized that that's something that I really enjoy doing. And the sort of like networking, this side of things as well. So this was something that I would like to focus more on in 2025 going forward. And if anybody has anything that they'd like to share, please do share it in the chat. I'd love to see everybody's strengths. This is the nice bit, the bit that you get excited about. I totally agree. I think it's Ofelia, Excellence Learning Centre Mexico. Definitely agree. Learning about different cultures whilst we teach, that is definitely a fun part. I always remember a lesson that I did a few years ago with a student in China, and it was the New Year's celebrations there, and she was in a restaurant with her family whilst doing the lesson, so I could see all the Chinese New Year's celebrations going on around her. Thanks, Chris. Oh God, board games are such a win for students. Oh, that's a lovely one from Callie, building rapport with students to better understand their needs and help them achieve their goals. Definitely when you work online as well, it's like quite satisfying to be able to build those connections with other people, isn't it? Okay, so yeah, I'll skip past this, but again, come back to it and like think about this more in detail when you've got more headspace, more time. So the next step is around then thinking about what's going on around you. In the context of business, it's thinking about identifying market trends and then deciding or trying to sort of like draw a correlation as to how what you enjoy doing, what your passions are, what excites you about your job can feed into what's going on around you in the market. So here are a few trends. I've done sort of like a little bit of sort of reflection myself on this for this presentation, and I've thought about what I've noticed in the ESL and just sort of general international tuition market, because that's sort of where my business lies. So things that I've noticed are, first of all, like there's more demand for online learning platforms. It's becoming more popular for parents to trust that online education works. You're seeing loads of sort of online schools popping up now in the UK. I heard on the news today, in fact, that there's a 20% increase in children who are being home educated here, so not in school. So there's definitely sort of more of a shift now towards online learning, which is great for my business. Secondly, that ESL niches are really booming, and you see this if you look on social media. Independent teachers are really specific about who they help and how they help them. So things like IELTS prep or business English or English for young learners are all areas that are still booming. And then finally, thinking about perhaps the broader context of where your business could lie. So for me, there are massively expanding international markets for ESL tuition and online tuition. So for example, areas like in China, Vietnam, parts of South America, the demand for online English tuition has risen a lot and continues to do so. So when you're reflecting on the sort of market trends and what's going on, it could just be things that you've noticed yourself, things that you've noticed parents asking for, or things that you've read up on. And you can, again, spend a lot more time researching this in depth, but it's quite nice to just think about what you've noticed in your sphere of the ESL world as well, because you'll notice things that other people perhaps don't. Then another nice way to think about reflecting on sort of what's going on in the market is comparing where your business idea, your existing business, or where your future business could sit in the market against its competitors. And sort of like identifying where you fit into this can really help you think about what makes you special, or what you should really hone in on, or what you want to avoid doing. So my sort of point here is that whatever your niche or passion is in ESL teaching, there's room for all of it. There's room for all of us and all of our niches. Like ESL teaching, the private sector is absolutely huge, and there are so many opportunities for whatever it is you wanted to do. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said about board game. I think it was Olga said about board games in the chat. Like if you could develop more ESL board games and have that set up, I mean, I know you do it for Twinkl, but set up as a private website, like that's something that ESL educators are going to buy into. There's a market for it. So whatever it is, there is space for you and your product or service. So when you're reflecting on this, think about what unmet needs or opportunities that you've noticed, and think about the broader context, like what trends are emerging in the ESL market. And I'm pretty sure Twinkl, the guys at Twinkl will know a lot about this, because I'm sure you have the resources to investigate this fully. So maybe you can tell me all of your secrets afterwards. So there is space in the workbook just to brainstorm some ideas of things that you've noticed in the market, and start to sort of hone in on how that aligns with your niche and what you do in your business. And I'm very conscious of time, so I'll let you do this in your own time after the session so that we can move on and get things wrapped up, because I wanted to share the sort of like final step and how you can bring this all together. So once you've gone through this process of reflecting on your passions, identifying how what's going on around you in the market aligns with those passions to develop what your niche is, then think about how you can put that into a plan for next year, how you can test or develop that idea in your business already, or how you can sort of like take one little step to setting up a business if that's what you want to do. So I just wanted to quickly share an example of how I've done this for this year, and how that's now affected my plan for 2025 in my business. So reflecting on what I was doing this year, I realized, as I mentioned earlier, that I really enjoyed helping teachers find their freedom and flexibility for it, like within their businesses. So, for example, whether that's through the tutors that I've hired to work for Primary Tutor Project, because they are perhaps ex-teachers that left the classroom seeking more flexibility away from the classroom because they were having children or whatever it was. So from working with them, but also from networking with like other business owners, other tutors who are just starting out and trying to figure out how to make a success of their business. So I realized I really enjoyed doing that. I also realized from being on loads of like Facebook groups with other tutors on, this is just a handful of comments that I saw over the course of this year, was that people were asking for or I should say, teachers in the UK were asking how they could find international ESL students, how they could tutor ESL, like what they needed to do to be able to teach ESL. Because they might be a primary trained teacher in the UK, but haven't gone into TEFL yet. So I noticed that sort of trend and people requesting that. So I realized that teachers were wanting more daytime hours. And also there's increasing demand in Asia for English teachers to tutor over there, which feeds into the UK daytime hours. So that led me to make a bit of a plan of something different that I want to set up for 2025. So I've decided that I want to create a course to support teachers that are leaving the classroom to upskill to be able to tutor ESL. And they didn't need to go back and do a TEFL qualification because they already know how to teach. It was just about bridging that gap between what they know from the UK curriculum and developing that into an ESL, understanding the ESL curriculum and how that differs and how to teach it, how to support ESL students. So that's my plan, my big idea. And then the last part is perhaps arguably the most important bit, committing to your idea. So again, tying back into Chris's ideas for habits, what's one habit or resource or action that you can take in January to start making this happen? And how are you going to continue reflecting on your process? So for me, this was literally, I've got my ridiculously chunky diary here to show you. This was literally about mapping out this idea and all the micro steps to achieve it into like a business diary. So it's basically specifically designed for small business owners to break down tasks and figure out when you're going to block out time in your diary to get these things done. So that was the action that I've taken to commit to it. And might be a good action for anybody wanting just generally to commit to new habits. So yeah, if that's inspired you for a new idea, that would be amazing to hear about. Or if you've got any ideas for plans that you'd like to take into 2025, please let me know in the chat. I'd love to hear them. And if you have any questions about how you can commit to that or what I do at Primary Tutor Project or anything, again, feel free to ask them in the chat. So the last bit was a bit of a rush. Sorry, guys. But yeah, I'd like to invite everybody to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above. So yeah, connect with me on socials. And if you are interested more in like ESL tuition and the business side of running or education businesses, then I send out monthly newsletters for people interested in that, which you can find from the QR code. So thanks, guys. And I think unless we have any questions, it's probably time to get over back to Sam for the next part.
Does everyone have any questions? I'm conscious of time, but I do want to leave room for questions if anyone has any. I will also mention that if you want to hear more from Callie and how she built her teaching business, she is also a featured case study, as I mentioned, in our upcoming Marketing Essentials for ESL teachers. Her and her business are a case study in that course. So if you are interested in finding out more, you can also head there. But also do follow her on socials. I would definitely endorse that decision. What I'm going to do, since we are running a little bit behind, I'm going to switch up the schedule, and instead of playing our game, I'm going to hand over to Ofelia now, and I'm going to leave our game for the end there. Therefore, if anyone needs to rush off, they're not going to leave in the middle of a workshop. So if everyone's happy with that, I'm going to switch over. And I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Ofelia, who is, much like Callie, a business owner, owns her own English language academy in Mexico, and is going to talk to us today about reflecting motivation and achievement, goal setting strategies in ELT. So I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning from Mexico City. It is 7:30 a.m. here in Mexico City. So I am very, very happy to be here with you today. Thank you, everyone. This is a great opportunity for me. I am so happy to share it. Yes, it is so early. I was logging from 5:30 at 5:30, but it was wonderful. No. For me, this is great. It is a wonderful opportunity to share with you. When I was in the breakout rooms, I was telling them that this is the way that we always learn. This is what we enjoy when we are sharing with people who we love, who we always have the opportunity to share time with. Okay, so let's start. And well, let me know if you can look at my presentation already. Yes? Can you look at it? Yes. Okay, perfect. So, well, as Callie was telling us, probably I won't be able to look at all of the, sorry, at all of the comments. Well, here we go. Okay, well, and today I want to reflect with you. I want to motivate you. I want to achieve goals with you. Okay, so here we go. Well, as everyone was saying before, a little part of my life has been into teaching. And well, I had the opportunity to participate in a lot of conferences right now. When I started working on this, I never imagined, or I never thought before that I would be doing this kind of activities. So I am really, really happy to share with you a little bit of these opportunities. As you can see, I am not a native speaker. So when Chris was asking, how long does it take you to become fluent in English? I told him a lifetime, okay? Because we are always going to be learning. We are never going to stop with it. So I have had the opportunity to participate in different conferences, and I am very happy to be here with you today. And well, I want you to share your thoughts with me. I want you to tell me, I want you to be working as if, imagine that we are coming back to our classroom and we are going to share with the rest of our colleagues. And I want you to tell me what motivates you as a teacher. What is that one thing that you consider it has been important for you and it is motivating you? Tell me, think about it. Something that you consider that it has been very important for you. Is there anything special? A person? Student growth, exactly. Yes, teachers growth, right? When we are teaching, we are also motivated. Okay, which other? Yes, that's wonderful, creating transformation in people's life. I love it. Yes, because when we are looking at our colleagues, our students, or the person who we are teaching, and we can see how they grow, how they change, it's when we are saying, yes, the aha moment. Yes, that's wonderful. And I really like that you are participating. Okay, so let's continue with the next one. Okay. I am a fan of integrating games and songs. Okay, why it works? Because it makes learning engaging and memorable, and it encourages participation and creativity. In the breakout rooms, we were also talking about Twinkl resources, and my students love all of those resources. They always want to have something new. They always want to play with something different. So I am really a fan of games and songs, and obviously that is all what I have in this platform. Okay, one of the activities I want to share with you is the reflection rally. Last month, I was having a presentation in León, Guanajuato, here in Mexico. And we were having a teacher's session, and we were playing the reflection rally. In the reflection rally, we are going to have a set of cards, and they are going to be thinking about what the year has brought, okay? And one of the cards was, what's one thing you have learned about motivation from your students? Are we learning from them? What have they taught you? What have they said? What have they done that you feel, wow, I could feel that motivation from them? Come on, tell me, think about it. They always want to learn. They are open to new ideas. What else?
Sorry, I just got a message that we might have some people who are struggling to use the chat function at the moment. So
Yeah.
if you can't use it, please just send a reaction.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Janet. Thank you. Okay. I can even see motivation. Yes, in my 5-year-old students. Excellent. Yes. Now it is okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, yes. And in case you cannot do it, excellent. Thank you. And in case you cannot do it, don't worry. Just think about it. This is going to be for you. Excellent. Thank you. There is no problem. Okay, so think about what have you learned? What have you learned from them? What have they done? Okay, now, if you could give one piece of motivational advice to a new teacher, what could it be? I love working with new teachers, new to be teachers, because they are always like looking for something else, something different, something new, something that they can do in the classroom. They always tell me, Teacher Ofe, or Miss Ofe, or whatever they want to tell me. I have a problem. I want to do a lot of activities in the classroom, but I don't know how to start. I have learned a lot of things, but I don't know how to start activities, which can, not to give up. Thank you, Carrie. That's wonderful. Not to, yes, that's wonderful. Oh, yes, keep the spark. Thank you, Callie. And I think that is a very beautiful characteristic from all of us. Yes, progress happens in tiny steps. Exactly. That is so important, because sometimes they get stressed because they want to learn very fast. Okay, great, wonderful. Okay, so now what we were talking about in the first presentation. Do we celebrate small wins? Do you remember we were talking about it in the first presentation? Motivation is contagious. Yes, definitely. It depends on you also. When you are not motivated, when you don't want to, when you don't feel so well, our students, our colleagues are going to feel it as well. Yes, exactly. And as Chris was telling us, we have to celebrate small wins. How do we celebrate it? How do we celebrate it? What do we tell them? What do we do with them? Mm-hmm. Sometimes when we are having activities at class, they used to tell me, Miss, and what are we going to get if we do it correctly? And I tell them, knowledge. What else do you want? And they enjoy it. They say, yes, of course, we get knowledge, Miss. Okay, perfect. So remember, these are activities that I want you to think for yourself, and I want you to share your thoughts in case you are able to do it. Okay. Motivated students achieve more goals, definitely. And not only as students, we as teachers do it as well. We can achieve more goals with our students, with our friends, with everyone when we are motivated. Okay. Now, I have some activities that I would like to share with you, with my young learners, explaining that now they will. Yes. Wonderful. I like it. Yes. Turning something negative into a positive thought. Excellent. Wow. I really love this community. I am so happy to be learning with you today. Okay. I am going to share with you some activities that I used to have. Thank you, Gary. That I used to have with you. I used to have with my students in order to learn in a happy and joyful way. The first one is word treasure hunts. You are going to hide pictures or when they are younger, maybe objects around the classroom, maybe in the playground, wherever you want, and you are going to give them a clue. So maybe you can tell them, please find a zoo animal. And they have to go around the playground and they have to choose the ones that belong to the zoo or to the farm. Or maybe you can ask them, like in the example, find something that starts with the letter B. And they have to go around the classroom, maybe with the stuffed toys, maybe with flashcards, or whatever you decide. You can do it also maybe with words. Find all of the words which start with the letter M. Or find all of the adjectives, or find, it depends, and it goes along with our imagination, and obviously according to the level that we are working with. So I also want you to think about how can I adapt these activities to my own students, to my own, to the level that I am teaching, okay? If you are teaching another level, how can you adapt this activity? What can you use in order to make it engaging for your students? What could you do? Try to tell me. Let's do it faster. Okay, let me check if we can have any comment here. Okay, it worked. Exactly. Yes, it works a lot in all levels. To talk about the object they could find. Excellent. That's wonderful. And another impact that we are having as teachers and colleagues, and I think we are all exactly in the same path, is that we are all teaching online. I was listening to Callie when she was saying that magical moment when you take your computer everywhere in the world and you can continue working. That is wonderful. I really love doing this. Excellent. Okay, let's check another one. And thank you for participating with us. Spin the wheel. Okay, in this one, well, you can create the wheel, or you can just do it, drawing it on the whiteboard, or maybe sharing it on your screen if you are working online. You are going to spin the wheel, and then they have to do a certain activity. In this case, we are talking about categories. For example, sing a song, say a poem, jump 10 times. Maybe if you are working with new vocabulary. Oh, thank you, Sandra. I really hope you like them and you use them, and they are great and helpful. We use this a lot. Exactly. Yes. Also, the spin the wheel is a lot included. And we can also adapt it to a lot of topics, different ages, different levels. And believe me, adults love playing as well as we do it. Okay, perfect. Very good. Another one, the hot potato questions. Okay, I used to do it. No matter whether we are having maybe a ball, I do it with a toy, I do it with a balloon, whatever, even with a sweater, because sometimes when we are working face to face, we don't have the opportunity to do it so easy, or to have a lot of material. So even with a sweater, and we pass the sweater along the students. When I am doing it online, I used to tell them the order that we are going to be playing. So I say number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And when I stop the music, in that number is where we are going to have the activity. So that is one way that I used to do it online. So we also have at the sentence building relay. I love this one because I used to tell them that we can have funny sentences or silly sentences. So we have, sometimes I do it only with the flashcards, not with words, only with drawings. they have to take 3 or 4 flashcards, and then they have to create the story or the sentence with those flashcards. So maybe the cat ate a book yesterday night. Okay, so they have to be creating silly sentences. They will try to do it in the specific tense that we are asking them to do it. And they can also do it online, because I ask them to have different drawings in advance, so they can choose them, and they show me the drawings they are using, and so they tell me the sentences that they are creating. This is a very nice one. Okay, do you have any other variation for this activity that you could share with us? Okay, while you told me, while you are helping me, I will move on to the next one. Simon Says with a Twist. We all know this famous game, Simon Says. And in this one, we are having a twist on it, okay? And instead of just saying, Simon says jump, Simon says run, Simon says read, we can include something else. For example, in this case, Simon says spell cat with your hands or with your fingers, and they have to start spelling the word, and they have to show you they did it correctly. Or Simon says get a hat, and they are running all around the house or all around the office trying to get all of the objects that we are asking them to have. Okay, so now tell me, think about your most motivated student. What made him or her stand out? Why do you remember them? Which is the reason because you remember that student? Tell me, what did he do? What did she do? How was she working or reacting every single class? Tell me. I want you to participate. I want to learn from you, remember. Always a smile. Yes, that's beautiful. A positive attitude, yes. Let's remember that sometimes, always curious. Exactly. I wanted to understand why, not just know what. Exactly. Their ability to try everything. Oh, yes, that's wonderful. They will always question. Yes, they are so creative. The lessons are so easy and yes. And up all the time. Yes, sure. Thank you for your participation. That's wonderful. Okay, so that makes me feel motivated. What you are doing is motivated. Okay. Yes, Raquel, go ahead. Tell me.
No, I was about to send an emoji. Sorry.
Don't worry. Thank you, Raquel. Thank you so much, Raquel. Okay, and for example, this is a session I was having 2 months ago with some teachers from my country, and they are enjoying the session, as I was telling you, as we do it when we were kids. And we were playing a lot. We were having lots of activities, and they were learning. They told me, I am going to do all of these activities once I come back to the classroom, but I want you to look at them, and I want you to realize this is the way they were working. They were enjoying the session so much as well as I was doing it. So this is what we should never lose. We should always be motivated. Sometimes it's difficult, as we were saying it at the beginning of the sessions. It is not possible to be motivated, optimistic, happy every single day. Nevertheless, when we are teaching with our heart and when our kids are enjoying and are learning and they reach their goals, this is what we get. Okay, this is another one of the pictures that from other workshop that we were having. And so why sometimes do we stop including these kind of activities with our students? Sometimes the class is the only one place where they can feel so comfortable and happy as well. So let's have that in mind every single day. Another activity that we can have is the goal setting pyramid. Sometimes we are just like, okay, at the end of the month, we have to learn 20 new words. And we do it like in a very serious way. Why not doing it as a game? Why not inviting them to do it in steps, as you were saying before, step by step? Yes, we want to reach the top of it, but we are going to start from the bottom. What about starting with 3 new words? Another 3? Probably we are not going to reach 20 of them in the same time, but we can do it little by little, step by step, and they enjoy it because each one of them have their own template, and they start filling it up. Okay, I have already learned red, blue, and orange. Okay, and they write them down. Now I am going to learn these ones, and how am I going to do it? Another activity, and this one is going to be for you. I want you to think about your 2025 teaching bucket list. What are you going to do? What are your plans? And I am not talking about teaching present perfect, teaching past, simple past. No. I want you to think, what is going to be my bucket list this year? How am I going to work with my students? What can I do every single day to make my lessons more fruitful? What is one of the things that you can do with them during this year, during this 2025? What could it be, your bucket list? Tell me, share it with me. Let's conclude this session with lots of things, lots of thoughts about the future in our classroom, not only for the kids, but also for us. What is in your bucket list for this 2025? Tell me one of your thoughts. Okay, think about it. If you cannot tell me in this moment, teach kindergarten. Oh, yes. They are so lovely. They are so lovely. And they are great teachers for us. Always try, definitely, we should always try something new. Always. I love it. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, really. Okay, so another of the things that we must have into our bucket list is to continue doing this, to continue creating communities, to continue working together, not to be afraid of doing some things. Some of my colleagues learn more about different techniques that work for each kid. Exactly, yes. And that's why we are here together, because we wanted to share, we wanted to learn, we wanted to do something new. Tomorrow when we arrive to our classroom, when we arrive to the work, making craft. Yes, that's wonderful. And as I was telling you, creating this kind of community. So I am really thankful with Twinkl, all of the team, because you are creating these spaces. You are giving us the opportunity to share with our colleagues, especially in my case, because as I told you at the beginning of the session, I am not a native speaker. No, thank you. I am not a native speaker, and you are trusting in all of us. You are giving us the opportunity to have a voice in this space. So thank you. And it is part of all of us. It is not, it is something that we must not be afraid of doing it. Some of my colleagues tell me, why did you do that? Why did you dare to do all of these activities? Because this is the only way that we are going to learn. This is the only way that we are going to share, and we are going to get to meet each other. So, well, I was going to have some activities with you, but obviously time is not going to be helping us very much, because it has been great. So I just want to think about a recent teaching moment you are proud of. And I don't want you to share it with us. I want you to keep it in your mind, in your heart, in your soul. What moment has given me a great satisfaction? What made me feel happy during this year? what has given me that kind of feeling that I should continue in this trip. I want you to keep it to yourself. Okay. The last activity, or where, yes, something that I also want to share with you is why not creating a calendar of goals. Maybe you can do this. Oh, thank you. Maybe you can do this with your students, like a challenge. Why don't we do this together? And they can be marking every single day the goals that they are reaching. That's another great idea. Okay. Together, we can transform classrooms into spaces of inspiration and achievement. And I have always told my students that learning a language. Oh, thank you, Chris. I really love what we are doing. We, not only me, we are doing thanks to you. And well, I always tell my students when we are learning another language, it is not just a matter of learning present perfect, past perfect verbs, new vocabulary. It is learning about culture, having the opportunity to share with different friends and colleagues. And here in Mexico, we have the British Society in Mexico, and I have had the opportunity to share with them. We were celebrating Christmas 1 week ago, thanks to the opportunity of speaking English. So learning another language definitely is learning another life, another way of living, another culture. So I think motivation has been told a lot of times during this session, but I think motivation is in our heart today. So I invite you to continue sharing every single day, not only talking about teaching, sharing that little part of our hearts that we can have with every person. So thank you everyone, thank you. In case you would like to have the activities, the games and everything, here you have the QR code. I try to do it as fast as possible. Thanks again, and thank you for your participation. Oh, thanks everyone for your comments. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. We're slightly short on time. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask?
Yes, any question, any comment? No, sure.
Fair enough. We are almost at the end of the time we allocated to this meeting. We did have a bingo game we were going to play. If anyone is really excited and has time to play bingo,
Yes.
let me know in the chat and I can hang around and we can do. But if everyone has classes to teach, people to see, things to do, feel free to leave. There's no obligation to stay and play bingo. We can certainly save it for another Twinkl ESL event. That was amazing, Ofelia. That was the positivity I think we needed.
Oh, thank you.
Because energy is running low in the lead up to Christmas. I think that was the motivation and the positive energy that we all needed. Callie's got and thank you, Callie. That was an amazing presentation. I'll try and share a link to Callie's workbook wherever I can and on socials and things so that you can try out Callie's reflection workbook. Amazing. No one has time to play bingo. That's totally fine. Awesome. In that case, the one last thing I'm going to do is share. If you are in the mood for some reflection, some motivation, some goal setting, I've highlighted here a couple of Twinkl resources that we have that we've designed especially for ESL teachers. We have one of my favorite worksheets is Why I Want to Learn English, which is really good for kids. We have some end of year reflection coloring, goal setting worksheets, planners for teachers, a New Year's resolution themed board game, since Olga was mentioning board games, a goal setting PPT lesson for adults, and a New Year, New Objectives worksheet for teenagers. Awesome. Okay. In that case, everyone, Merry Christmas and more importantly, Happy New Year. I hope you stay motivated. I hope you set some goals. I hope you feel energized for the year ahead. Certainly, as teachers, we need it. Yeah, any questions before we wrap up? Pop them in the chat. Otherwise, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year.
Happy Christmas. Thanks, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you so much.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye, Sandra. Merry Christmas.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Sarah.
Everyone, bye.
Hi, everybody. See you.
Bye.